Alright guys, so I'm back today because I finally got a chance to catch the new Hellraiser reboot or remake or whatever you want to call it, and it's streaming on Hulu right now, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it today. Hellraiser is directed by David Bruckner. A young woman struggling with addiction comes into possession of an ancient puzzle box, unaware that its purpose is to summon the Cenobites, a group of sadistic supernatural beings from another dimension. So when this got announced, I was really excited for it because, you know, we always talk about horror reboots and remakes, and when those come to mind, you always ask yourself the question, does this need to be rebooted or does it need to be reimagined? And you know, when you look at things like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, a lot of these classic franchises, there's not really a need for it. I mean, if people want more material, I can understand that. But these well-established franchises that have been loved over the years, there's not really a reason to do it. Hellraiser is a franchise that deserves a good reboot. I think the first two films in the franchise are really solid. 3 and 4 have their moments that are kind of goofy, but past that, you have a lot of like straight-to-video, really just not well-made films that are really forgettable, and the concept behind Hellraiser is so cool, and I think that it's definitely a franchise that deserved to be re-looked at. And David Bruckner, I really loved his film The Night House. He did segments on VHS and Southbound that I really both enjoyed, and so he's an incredibly competent filmmaker that I think really has the ability to turn this into something good. And what I will say is I liked this movie, but I did not love it. I think there's a lot of problems in the character writing. The characters in this film are very underwhelming. I feel like they should have done a better job with casting. None of them are really charismatic or interesting to where I want to follow their story. Every time the Cenobites were on screen, especially Jamie Clayton as Pinhead, whenever she was on screen, I was just completely enamored with her performance and just how horrifying the new Cenobites look. I think they did a really great job with that. Whenever they're on screen, you're just kind of hooked. But this film is an almost 2-hour runtime, and it is incredibly bloated. There were so many times during it that I just found myself kind of pulling out of this movie. You think about the original Hellraiser. The original Hellraiser is like an hour and a half, really brisk runtime, but what makes that movie so immersive and interesting is that the characters are all really fascinating. And the other thing I would say about this film is there's some really good gore elements, but I would say compared to Clive Barker's source material, which is really about like sadism and hedonism involving, you know, sex and this idea between correlation of pain and pleasure, that this movie didn't really go as far as it probably could have, and it seemed very tame. And I'm kind of surprised with, you know, I know Clive Barker had a little bit of involvement with this, that it didn't kind of go in a further direction, and I just found myself through these moments of just kind of pointless dialogue between characters being like, okay, put the Cenobites back on screen, get me reinvested, and I just wasn't, and it was unfortunate. The third act in this is fantastic. It's definitely amazing. It really keeps you gripped to the screen. I really loved the setup of this house that they're in the very end of the movie. I think they do a really great job with that, but like I said, every character in this is really forgettable, and our lead character is supposed to have this struggle with addiction that you're supposed to connect to. But I think about a horror film that has an allegory for addiction, like the 2013 Fede Alvarez Evil Dead remake, where the allegory for addiction is handled so perfectly and the characters are so much more engaging and entertaining, and you watch them and you really genuinely care for those people. Where these characters in this movie, they're all just kind of bland. They don't really give that good of performances, and I was disappointed because I really was hopeful that this would be, you know, a really engaging and immersive Hellraiser experience, and it was just fine. I don't think it's horrible. I don't think it's bad. I think it's definitely worth you checking out and formulating your own opinion on, but I don't think it's a masterpiece. I don't think that it's like reinventing the Hellraiser franchise. I just think it's kind of average, and they hint at the end of the film that there could be another one. I'm sure that with this being on Hulu, it being the spooky season, that it should do relatively well, and I'd be really interested to see if David Bruckner would pick up and do a second one, and if it would take more of a direction of Hellraiser 2, the Hellbound Heart, which includes the Cenobites more, has a lot more violence. I like Hellraiser 2 more than the original, but I'd be interested to see if it would go in that direction. But I think this movie is a very passable remake that's a lot better than a lot of other remakes, but it could have been much better. But I will say the standout of the entire film is Jamie Clayton's performance as Pinhead. Just absolutely incredible, menacing, just exactly what you would want from a Pinhead character. And I think that anyone who watches this movie will be able to respect that performance and the performance of all the other Cenobites that are just absolutely horrifying. They did a really great job with that. I just wish I would have liked this movie a little bit more. So have you seen the Hellraiser remake? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was okay. I didn't think that it was anything super special. I was a little disappointed, but I'm hopeful that they keep this franchise going and that they do a better job with the sequels in the future. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.